I punched the wrong kid during a cross country race. Our varsity cross country team was phenomenal my sophomore year. We were ranked like second in the state off our class size. Our first race of the season was down at St. X Louisville, but they weren't in our class. We had one other school in our class that was very good, and they were ranked in front of us. So they were like our Kansas City Chiefs. We had them circled in red on the calendar for every cross country meet. They were going to be down at this St. X Louisville meet, so our varsity team was super excited to race against them. I was a varsity alternate my sophomore year. You have 7 varsity runners and then 3 alternates, so like your subs. So I was the kid that got a varsity letter for not doing any of the work. I only ran on varsity in the races where you would sometimes have 10 runners instead of 7. And honestly, it was a nice break from JV because on JV, I was expected to be like a top 3 runner and finish high in the race. For varsity races, I was like, we chilling. I'm talking to my buddy, we'll call him Matt. Matt was also a sophomore, but he was an awesome runner, top 5 runner on the team. He was like the Michael Jordan to my Dennis Rodman. We used to joke and call Matt the golden boy because he was a great runner, always got great grades, very dedicated to the sport of cross country. And luckily for me, he was tight with the coach, so he would always keep me from getting suspended, keep me out of trouble, always do a little political work for me to make sure I stayed on the top 10 varsity group. Shout out Matt for that. But we're warming up for this St. X Louisville meet. I'm telling Matt, like, man, it's just so nice to be a varsity alternate. It's so chill not having to worry about running. And he's like, no, Tom, you're actually still important in these races because if it ever comes down to more than the top 5 points, you need to make sure you put yourself in a good position because the farther ahead you finish, the better our chances are. It's just a reality of cross country. And I'm like, oh, shit, I need to try in this. Okay, well, ain't no way in hell there's some crazy tie or some shit. I'm not going to be the one responsible for losing to this school. In my head, all I have to do is beat 3 people from this school. During the race, I passed 2 of their kids, and the third kid that I end up passing, we exchanged some shoulders and elbows, and we're trying to talk shit, but you're super out of breath during the race. You're like, I can barely breathe, but you're going to try to talk shit in cross country. So I'm like, fuck you. He's like, you're a bitch. At the end of the race, I'm coming around the corner for like the final turn where you start sprinting, and I see another kid from the team that we need to beat. And I'm like, shit, I must have been all disoriented at some point during the race. He must have passed me. Shit, I need to pass this kid. This is important. I am not going to be the one responsible for us losing this race. So I start sprinting earlier than you normally would. And as I catch up to him, I'm thinking, shit, he hasn't started his sprint yet. I'm already kind of gassed. Like, he's probably going to end up beating me. I am not losing to this kid. This is for the team. And I see this big-ass tree on the edge of the course, blocked off sides of the course. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to lean against him and try to get him to have to go around the tree, slow him down enough so I make sure I beat him. I run up next to him, and he kind of bumps into me because he knows I'm trying to pass him, and I kind of bump into him. And I just basically start leaning on him, and I'm running, trying to get him to lead into this tree. All I got to do is make him work around this tree a little bit, and I can beat him. I'm leaning on him. He gives me an elbow, and I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. Boom. And I just punch him. And then I throw an elbow into his ribs and take off. It's at the end of the race. There's all kinds of parents from his school that start screaming, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. Because the only crowd at a cross country race is the beginning and the end. So all these fans that see it are like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. I'm laughing because all my JV teammates who I'm usually running with, that's like a regular thing in a JV race. You're getting elbowed and punched the whole time. That's normal behavior for a JV cross country race. They're laughing at me. I'm laughing. I sprint in. When I get in, the kid comes up behind me, shoves me when we come across the finish line. He's like, what was that? I'm like, oh, I tripped over the tree, man. My bad. I just play it off. And he keeps talking, and I'm like, hey, well, if it's a problem, we can throw hands. And then he backed off or whatever and go in, get our cards and shit. In my head, I was like, that kid hit me earlier in the race. He knew what was coming. Turns out it was their number 7 guy. So it was the 4th kid I passed, not the 3rd kid. They just looked a lot alike. So I punched the wrong kid. So when I found out about it, I was like, I'm sorry, man. And our team ended up winning. So they won, and they were happy and shit. And all my JV buddies come up, and they're laughing their asses off. They're like, dude, we saw you punch a kid. Like, yeah, it's just, you guys know it's part of it. They're like, yeah, but you did it in a varsity race. I'm like, well, who gives a shit? We're here for the W. And then my buddy Matt, his mom was our team photographer, and she would upload all the race photos to Shutterfly. So later that day, we all went home or whatever. He calls me just in hysterical laughter. He's like, dude, sends this photo. His mom literally got a live shot of me, mid elbow to the ribs, just has a live shot of me drilling this kid. And what was funny was, as I got older, and my junior, senior year, especially of cross country, I never was like a top three runner. I was never that important to the varsity team, but that kind of became my role. Is like, I'm going to make sure that I throw some elbows and clear some space for our stallions, our good runners to get out in front and go win races for us. We did win a lot of races during my high school career. So it was always funny because, especially with cross country, you'd always have kids and parents trying to bitch about, like, oh, you elbowed my son, or you hit my son, or you stepped on my son's foot. And it's like, look, here's the reality of the matter. That shit happens in every race. Did we do it with a little bit more physicality and intent? Absolutely. But it's not like we were the only kids pushing and shoving in a freaking cross country race of thousands of kids. In my opinion, especially not even just with cross country, but in any sports, outside of like blatant dirty shit trying to hurt people, like we were never trying to put someone out of a race. But if you're going to make contact with me, I promise you're going to get hit harder back. Like that's just the reality of how we ran cross country. You have all these people who complain and make excuses and say stuff like, not classy or it's unsportsmanlike. And it's like, look, at the end of the day, sports are about getting a W. Outside of maliciously hurting someone to like end their career or something, if you can't handle some shit talking and physicality, to me, you're a pussy. You're soft. If you can't handle physicality and have a mentally tough enough mindset to run against me and my buddies, or whatever sport it is, compete against us the way that we compete, then you're soft. Get tougher. Get strong enough that when I elbow you, you can maintain it. Or when you push me and I push you back and you fall because I trained harder and did more weightlifting than you, that's your problem. That's not mine. That's the way that we're running this race because you initiated contact with me. If you don't like getting bumped by me or hit by me or whatever, you don't like me talking shit, either get strong enough where you can give it right back to me, or be faster than me where you don't even have to see a guy like me during the race. At the end of the day, like, of course I wanted to be like a top runner on my team, but I didn't put in enough work to be the lead horse of our varsity team. I took the role that we needed and I ran with it, which was clear a lane for the better runners. Not even just cross country, just in general in life and stuff. If you're not willing to put in the work to get the results required, you can't bitch about somebody else's approach affecting you if you're not mentally tough enough or physically strong enough to handle it. And I think that's just something that you look at society today in general. It's a very clear line with where you want to be in the world. You can be that person that uses every challenge or everything that's not easy or handed to you as an excuse to why you don't get to where you want to be in life or don't become the person that you want to be in life. Or you can suit up, put in the work required, and go get it. And what's funny is today, a lot of people would call that ignorant, but it's work ethic, regardless of the career or the field that you choose to go into, or even if you are going to go try to be a D1 or professional athlete. Talent is only going to get you so far. Like, there's a lot of talented people that don't do shit in life because they don't put in the work. So, yeah, you got to find what you're passionate about. You got to find your dream and the stuff that inspires you to put in the work. But at the end of the day, you have to go put in the work. And that is a requirement in anything. And I think that's the problem with our society today is you have so many people who want to use all the mental health and all these bullshit excuses as like a crutch to get through life, or like the ADHD shit, or, oh, I have a learning disability. And I'm not saying that stuff's not true, and I'm not saying it's not hard to deal with, and some people might have worse cases of that stuff than others. But at the end of the day, it's an excuse. It's a crutch. You shouldn't use that to get out of work or have things handed to you in life. You have to put in the work that's required to become the successful person that you want to be. Regardless of your race, religion, gender, etc., if you look at the people in the world today who are successful, outside of people who had like billions from their families and shit like that, where it just kind of handed to you, that's not success, that's just family wealth. Like, if you really want to create that type of lifestyle and success for yourself, everybody who got it on their own, work ethic and persistence is the only two factors that everybody has, regardless of the career or the path that they had to take. Because everybody's path is different. Everybody has things that they have to overcome as far as challenges and difficulties go. And sure, the degree of those is more difficult or severe for some people, depending on the life that they were dealt. But circling all that back to cross country, people are like, oh, you guys were dirty runners, or you weren't classy and all this bullshit. And it's like, at the end of the day, respectfully, if you lost to us, it wasn't because of an elbow. It wasn't because of anything but the fact that we were better runners than you and we had a better strategy and approach to win the race. Sports are about getting W's. If you don't like the way we got our W's, then sorry, but that's how we operated. Just reflecting all that back onto life in general, I would say if you're really not successful in something, you didn't put in the work. If you aren't where you want to be in life or you're not in a place of success that you feel like you need to be in, then start putting in the fucking work. It's that plain and simple. If you're not going to put in the work, then don't be bitching and making excuses for yourself, because people who do that are never successful in anything. Talk to Tom.
Taking shots by the lake till I can't even breathe no more, see no more. I was riding around town thinking to myself, is it